Welcome to Matters Financial and Geopolitical from the Frontier. Thank you for stopping by. I'm always grateful. Um, of course, we're hosting the Central Bank Governor on the 28th of May at Mindspeak. This is Patrick Girogi. And actually, I went and did a short interview. Well, it was meant to be short. I was given 20 minutes and we spoke for an hour. And then I felt I was cutting it short. And that links on rich wrap-ups, and I made some observations, tweeted erudite, literary, transparent and frank. I called him ahead of the curve, and he really is a very engaging individual, and I think you're going to be pretty fascinated by this Mindspeak. And we've done a small teaser, it's about 7 minutes out of this 1 hour. We'll be publishing the other ones in due course. Do take a look at that, and it was a pleasure meeting him for the second time. I first met him in the Serena. I said serendipity, and indeed it was. Joshua calls him an exponential pragmatist and a masterstroke fellow. I think he's right on those points. Macro thoughts, I went back to something I wrote in September 2014, because if you follow the markets like I do, we've had some extraordinary and dramatic developments. A small window for sharks as dollar rises, I said in 2014, quoting Stanley Druckenmiller. As a macro investor, my job for 30 years was to anticipate changes in the economic trends that were not expected by others and therefore not yet reflected in securities prices. The problem with that is that you could be wrong, that the market can turn much later than you expect, so you've got to hold your position, that kind of thing. The Fed has put a June rate increase back on the table. Have a look at Holger's picture. Fed rate hike odds jumped to 33% after April minutes adopted a modestly hawkish tone. And I think you've had this huge rally in the commodity markets. You've had a rebound in risk assets. And if you're going to go for it, you're going to have to go for it now. So I think there is a real risk of a rate hike, but we've been undone before. Gold and silver got simply hammered. Gold is now at 12.56 or thereabouts. I love this photograph that Candy on Twitter posted today morning at Archer's Post. That was, in fact, yesterday morning. I don't have much time. I have to haul corpses. I don't have much time. I have to breathe, eat, drink, sleep. I don't have much time, I have to keep the gears meshing. I don't have much time, I'm busy living. I don't have much time, I'm busy dying. This is the book I finally received, Roberto Bolaño, 2666. And it's a very powerful book. You have to listen to women. You should never ignore a woman's fears. Then I went back to some photographs. The setting sun in Lamu is one. The sunset in Mombasa is another. And the reason I went back to these photographs was a quote by Bolaño again. The sky at sunset looked like a carnivorous flower. And finally, sunset Christmas Day at Lugard Falls, for those who know the Tsavo. 2 Chinese jet fighters intercepted as American reconnaissance aircraft flying over the South China Sea. We are reviewing a May 17 intercept of a U.S. maritime patrol reconnaissance aircraft by 2 tactical aircraft from the People's Republic of China. The incident occurred in international airspace during a routine U.S. patrol in the South China Sea. This goes back to the pivot in what is quite an adversarial situation in the South China Sea. The big news that I heard in the morning was that an Egypt Air MS-804 vanished upon entering Egyptian airspace. It seems from the latest news I've heard that it crashed into the sea. It takes me back to August 2014 when I said the signal announcing this new arrhythmic normal was the disappearance of MH370. Picking up the signal through the noise of our world in 2014 is no easy thing. In fact, my view is that the new normal is a very arrhythmic world. When I plugged arrhythmia into my computer, it threw up this. For years, he'd been studying the phenomenon of chaos, of which an arrhythmic heartbeat was the perfect example, and I was drawing a comparison between the world as we find it today and of how I find it extremely arrhythmic. His Excellency Johann Borgstam told me the signal announcing this new arrhythmic normal was the disappearance of MH370. Since then, planes have been falling out of the sky like flies. And the uncertainty around MH370 and MH17, which is sharpened by the way the story is seemingly turned on and off, took me back to Don DeLillo. We are not witnessing the flow of information so much as pure spectacle, or information made sacred, ritually unreadable. The small monitors of the office, home and car become a kind of idolatry here, where crowds might gather in astonishment. Let's move on to the currency markets because, my goodness, there's been a lot of action there. Euro, 112.25. Dollar index, around 95.24. It's rallied to a 7-week high. This is after the Fed Reserve issued their minutes and basically kept a June rate hike on the table. Japanese yen above 110, 110.09, Swissy 0.9875, the pound 145.91, the Australian dollar 0.7220, Indian rupee 67.205, South Korean won 1189.87, Rial 355.48, Egyptian pound 887.96, and the South African rand 15.855, and that's sold off pretty dramatically, hasn't it? After Gordon broke cover. Minutes of the April 26-27 Federal Open Market Committee meeting released Wednesday in Washington used the word June 6 times in the policy context. The US economy, of course, barely grew in the first quarter, expanding at a rate of just 0.5%. But we've had a string of stronger data, including retail sales, which in April rose by the most in a year. Dollar index jumped on those minutes. Cities Englander described as a clear message that the June hike is seriously live. The dollar has advanced for the past 2 weeks in its longest run of gains since January. US 2-year yields jumped to the highest since March. Have a look at this chart. Finally, I'll put up the dollar Canada chart. And I think finally this is time to get back on the dollar against the Canadian. Brent, now I was watching this last night, I was actually trading it. I got stopped out at 50. And then I did what I hate doing, which is going back in again. Got sold it just above 50. And we actually tumbled dramatically from that point. I think that might be the top for Brent in particular. And just look at how it reversed after crossing 50. Very dramatic. Saudi Arabia is considering paying contractors with IOUs. And by the way, I'm off to Doha tomorrow for the Doha Forum. I'm looking forward to that, so I'll be off next week until Wednesday. Saudi Arabia is considering using IOUs to pay outstanding bills with contractors and conserve cash, according to people briefed on the discussions. As payment from the state, contractors would receive bond-like instruments. Couldn't help thinking about Zimbabwe. Their bond-like instruments, and you could hold these until maturity or sell it on to the banks, apparently. Put up a photograph of King Abdullah Financial District, as seen from a skyscraper, and also a chart of the Saudi funding squeeze. I've spoken about that sufficiently. I'm very bearish, and I think there's been plenty of wastage, and to bring all of that under control is a near impossible task. And the game they're playing is like double or quits. Now, I wrote this in 2012, June 2012, when we visited Maputo, and I called it Maputo Boom Town. That was then. This is now. They won't be able to honour a $178 million debt interest repayment that's due next week for a previously undisclosed loan extended to a state-run company. This is the finance minister, Adriana Fonza Maleni. Nation holds public debt of $11.64 billion, of which $9.85 billion is owed to foreign investors. They've owned up to holding more than $1.1 billion in hidden loans, which they've failed to tell investors about. It's just so murky. The best article, I think, written on it was the Africa Confidential one I had in the Rich Wrap-Ups on Monday. The Metical has fallen 3% against the dollar this year. It's going to be in free fall after dropping 32% in 2015. I've told you severally, but I went to this conference at the IMF with President Rabusa, the one, in fact, who's being pointed at, my fingers are being pointed at. And I took this photograph, and I didn't realize how things were going to spin around. I like this photograph I took of Maputo. We've gone for a boat ride, beautiful beaches, and we're coming back in the sunset. We are approaching high noon at the OK Corral. Theo Venter, a political analyst at Northwest University in Johannesburg. And we've written about this endlessly. What worries me is that the Zuma side is willing to play Russian roulette with the economy. They always have been, and they continue to do so. Some of Gordon's comments have been really hard-hitting and show he's tired of state institutions being used to pursue a political agenda. The gloves are clearly off now, and it is semi-open warfare. Zuma said yesterday that he never lied. South African all-share up 4.15% year to date. Dollar rand 15.8187, and it wasn't too long ago, was it? Over near 14. Egyptian EGX 30, well, let's see what's going to happen next. It entered a bull market in March this year, up 9.01% year to date. But the big problem here is going to be the tourism industry. If it hadn't cracked already, it's about to. Nigeria's currency chaos deepens as bets on devaluation rise. Nigeria's currency chaos is deepening, says Bloomberg. Investors increasingly bet the bottom will drop out of the Naira. Well, we've been saying that for months, and the Vice President hints at a devaluation. President Buhari, who calls the shots, has resisted letting the currency weaken since coming to power a year ago, likening it to murder. But he's kept quiet. Forward contracts suggest the currency will plunge 29% in 3 months to 257. Nigeria's central bank has held the Naira steady at 197 to 199 since March 2015, essentially by completely cutting off any access to that price. Nigerian oil output was also tanked. And I think, this is why I missed this dollar rebound, by this crude oil rebound, and I think it's going to be it's overdone now. I guess this price action is a signal of blogs getting bailed out. Nigeria, Venezuela, the risk of disruption, that they will not be able to supply the oil markets, have lifted the price of oil. Put up a photograph of President Buhari that I found this morning. The first missing Chibok girl was found in Nigeria, apparently, so that's some good news. His sister got 3 daughters. When you read things like that, you really get upset. Nigerian all-share down 6.56% this year. Ghana Stock Exchange is at 37-month lows, down 11.16% this year. SABMiller, full-year profit, falls on charges in African units. Earnings were hurt by a $572 million charge as the brewers scaled back operations in Angola and war-torn South Sudan, as well as $160 million in costs associated with the AB InBev deal. Ongoing turmoil in South Sudan and a lack of hard currency prompted SABMiller to close its brewery there. It will now operate as an import business, the brewer said. Currency devaluations have also weighed on the brewer in the country as well as in Angola. Let's move on to Kenya. Kenyan auditors to visit the US for special Eurobond probe. I don't know why they're going visiting. They can get all they want from here. Top forensic auditors will visit London and New York next month to collect data from international banks that handled the sale of 250 billion Eurobond. And I take you back to the press conference that David Lipton gave whilst he was here in Nairobi, and he said, he said, I have to say the accounting that has been presented to the IMF is proper. He also said Kenya is in a safe zone. Kenya debt is in a safe zone. NSE Kenya, I didn't touch on this yesterday, but issued a notice when they said an individual or private company shall not hold more than 5% of the equity share capital. A public company shall not hold more than 10% of the equity share capital. Trading participants shall not cumulatively hold more than 40%. And the NSE is up 14.14% year to date, considerably outperforming the indices. But I think it takes some of the takeover premium out of the price. Kenya shilling 100.788. Nairobi all share up just 0.03% this year. NSE 20 bounced for 10-week low, but it remains down 4.02% this year. Coffee prices rose 5% on high demand in the global market. Coffee prices have been on a bit of a roll internationally. Safaricom closed unchanged at 17.15 yesterday, but it's bounced higher. I think investors have quite properly looked through the recent noise and looked at the numbers. KCB, most actively traded share yesterday at the stock exchange, up 0.6%, well supported, and the rights issue will be fully taken up one way or another. Co-op reported Q1 26 earnings before the opening bell. Profit before tax accelerated 14.144%. Equity Bank was up 1.27%. Good volume, 3.8 million shares. Standard Chartered up 1.522% to close at 200. It's a bit of a buy at 200 actually, and I think you're going to get a good return from here. We spoke about the NSE. Kenya eased 0.75% to close at 660, which is 5 cents below the rights price. And, that's a little bit absurd in my view. Once again, thank you for stopping by.